Well, hello there, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Two Sons Podcast. If this is your eh, first time joining us, welcome to Two Sons Podcast. If this is your 10th, 15th, 25th, 37th, or whatever time it is joining us, welcome back to another episode of Two Sons Podcast. A little bit in the introduction here, I just want to say I'm kind of glad that we don't edit things out because I feel like it's just raw and natural. Like just then. Normally you would edit that out, but like no, that's how podcasts work. What are we gonna edit and like spend 2 to 3 hours on like something that's not? It's like no, we'll give
Mhm.
you guys the raw, uncut footage because we do that here at Two Sons Podcast. There is no one else like us in the universe. Just this two sons right here.
Yeah, we like it raw.
Yes, we do. But welcome back to another episode of Two Sons Podcast. We are back on the Star Wars train. Or I guess you could say we never left, and we've been on the Star Wars train for a solid couple of weeks now with another episode of Ahsoka. If you can't tell by the title, we are going to be talking about Ahsoka Episode 7. Another great episode in this series, and one last before, I guess you could say, the preseason finale. And I'm very excited to see the finale of Ahsoka next week. I am wondering who's directing it. Is it confirmed on who's directing it? Do we not know? Is it Filoni again?
I would like to think that it's Filoni. I feel like it would just make the most sense, but
Mm.
it hasn't been confirmed. I don't know if there actually is a list that you could look up, but most of the time you kind of find out after the end of the episode. But considering how it is the season finale, you would expect him to, direct the first and the last episode of the season. So,
You would naturally, naturally you would, of
mhm,
course.
mhm, mhm.
But yeah, guys, welcome back. Welcome, or just welcome for the first time. We are very excited to be back on a wonderful. It's Thursday evening at 8:41 p.m. But obviously, this will be on your screens on a crisp Friday morning. Maybe a little breezy Friday morning for you folks down north, or for you folks up south, or from you folks across the pond,
You
or
gotta, you
across
gotta, you
the
gotta, you gotta change that around. You gotta do down south and up north, not up south and down north.
Well, I'm just letting you know, my degree is in history with a social studies concentration. Nothing in there says geography, all right? I don't know none of that stuff, all right? I
Oh
got I
well, it's
got a
crazy because usually geography is a part of history. So
yeah,
just
well, I actually didn't take a class like that, and like I don't really care. Like, for any students out there, geography don't matter, all right? If you're lost, just use Google Maps, all right? It exists. Yeah, I ain't here to help you with that. All I'm here to do is entertain you guys with my Two Sons podcastness, all right? And that's exactly what I do week in and week out. I'm gonna keep bugging you guys for the interactions on the medias. We got a little more interaction in the past 2 weeks, I will say. We had a couple more answers on the polls, except no physical typing, and that's what I really want to see. But again, I'm not gonna force you guys' hand or anything. But like both me and my brother said last episode, and probably the episode before, and numerous other ones, um, any interaction is welcome. Episode ideas, comments, concerns, whatever you have. If you just want to talk, you're always able to hit us up on all our socials. We'll go into that at the end of the episode, end of the episode, like we always do. And I'm just I lost my train of thought there because I was going to talk about something else. I don't remember. I really don't remember now that I say it. I'm gonna take a sip of water while I recollect and figure out what I was gonna say. Crisp silence there. I thought you were gonna start talking, but I guess not. Uh, um, but but yeah. Oh, what I wanted to say is, and I've mentioned this probably a couple other times before, but I am really, really, really interested in doing a giveaway on this podcast. Especially once I go through everything when I move. I'm gonna be going through all my posters, and I really would love to give away one. Um, so I mean, I hope we can work something out like that. But if you guys interact, maybe we could start doing some giveaways or something. I mean, I do have a pretty extensive collection, and I don't mind doing stuff like that because it's a fun way to engage with you guys. So if we can get some more engagement, that's something I'm definitely open to and hoping to eventually do at some point in this podcasting journey, whether that's sooner or later. But yeah, if you guys have any ideas maybe on that front or anything, especially Star Wars ideas, because the next couple of weeks, if not months or something, might be Star Wars related on this podcast. Obviously, we're going to cover other stuff as well. But I do want to do, like I said, um, all the Star Wars movies. We're gonna do the shows. We're gonna do, maybe some hot takes here and there, or something like that. You guys seem to enjoy that stuff. But while we're on the topic of that, I just want to thank you guys for the love and support over the past couple of Ahsoka episodes. They've all been doing pretty well. The first one and episode 5 are the two best ones as of now, and episode 6 is pretty much equaling out to episode 5's analytics, I want to say. So doing really well and getting consistent views, which I always like to see. So keep that up, guys, and let us know if you have any thoughts, comments, or concerns. But while we got that out of the way, what I wanted to say is I guess let's just get into how we're doing. So how we doing, man, across the screen from me and my good old co-host of a brother here.
Oh, me.
You there?
Me.
Yes, you there in the
Oh,
Star Wars.
okay.
Yes.
I am doing okay. Kind of same old, to be honest. School's been going really well. Can't really complain about that. Kind of same old with that. And then work has been going pretty good. It's been fairly slow, so it's been a nice kind of easy time before, the holiday season and whatnot. So it's been going pretty good. I'm scheduled for surgery in 2 weeks. I'm going to be getting my wisdom teeth removed.
Yeah.
So yeah, woohoo, yeah.
Wisdom
Um,
teeth.
so I will be fully conscious. So I will be looking at them as, I will basically stare into their soul as they are
Send me a
deep in my
video
mouth.
or FaceTime me. Just give the phone to one of the dental hygienists and just
Yeah,
have them narrate. Be like, oh, this is behind the scenes of Two Sons podcast.
yeah, right.
Just random thing we could put up on the socials that we
But
funny.
unfortunately, it is that time in my life where I cannot escape my wisdom teeth anymore, and I have to get them removed.
Boys
So I'm
old.
scheduled just to get the bottom two removed. But in the event that I have to get all of them removed, either I'll be walking out there with 2 less teeth or 4 less teeth. It does not really matter to me as long as they're out of my mouth, because that would be nice.
Are you
Um,
gonna keep them?
I kind of hope that they just leave them on the side, so then after they're done, I just look and be like, oh, so that was what's
I
in my
think they
mouth.
normally show you stuff like that.
I mean, it would be nice. I mean, the fact that they were just like, elbow deep in my mouth. I mean, I would appreciate just them showing me my teeth after they just, scooped them out of my mouth, basically. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm a little nervous, but at the end of the day, I know it's gonna be okay. So yeah, I have that scheduled for 2 weeks. So depending on how I'm feeling, there might not be an episode, or if there is, I might just be sitting here and not saying a word because I just might be too tender to talk, or at least
Well,
for a
that's
long
when I'll
period of
probably do
time.
a solo episode about stuff that I've been wanting to talk
Mhm.
about, maybe just random stuff.
But other than that, I mean, September is finally to a close. Spooky season is right around the corner. So, comment down below if any of you guys are gonna take part in October Fest and
Oh
Halloween
yeah.
Fest and watch a scary movie every day. I'm definitely gonna try to do that. I'm gonna try to watch a scary movie every day, just to get myself a little bit into horror. But yeah, hopefully you guys have been having a nice fall so far. And like I said, a couple of days ago was like the first day of fall. So hopefully you guys are getting into pumpkin spice season and the fall season, and especially we got one of the first big holidays coming up. So hopefully you guys are ready for Halloween and you are excited for that. I should be fully recovered by then, so I mean at least I'll be able to enjoy some candy and everything. So that'll be nice. But
I think we
yeah,
should dress
but
up for a Halloween episode.
yeah, that would be cool. It depends on what day Halloween falls on. Like I said, guys, comment down below if you still want to see Joey rock that Anakin Skywalker cosplay. Totally a missed opportunity if he does. I mean, we've already been over this, but if he does not, it's a total wasted opportunity. They're easily affordable. You can find them on Amazon. Not that hard, not that hard. So,
Fair,
we'll
fair.
see if he does it. But yeah, just comment down below if you want him to dress up as Anakin Skywalker. I know I do, but it all that matters is what you guys think. So, but yeah, so otherwise, I'm doing pretty good. So I got work tomorrow, and this weekend we'll be celebrating my grandma's birthday. So just a early shout out to our wonderful grandmother.
Yakuba.
And yeah, so otherwise, I'm pretty good. So how are you doing, my wonderful brother across the screen?
Well, I'm doing okay. Lots of school stuff this week, lots of stuff on my program. As you guys know, I am in a master's program for education, social studies specifically, and I am going to have to start doing my observation hours for the program. basically where I just go to a classroom and stand behind a teacher and be like, hey, what are you doing? Or they show me what they're doing. And basically, I don't really know. I've never done it before. So you got to fill out resumes, you got to get fingerprinted, you got to do all this fun stuff to be allowed to, I guess, be in schools. So I got to do all that stuff. But getting it done slowly but surely. Again, school is also going well. A little bit of a boring week, but I mean, I enjoy my classes nonetheless. So excited to just get through the month as well. Like my brother said, spooky season is right around the corner. I've been very into Dunkin' Donuts lately. I mean, I've always been into Dunkin', but I've been put on by my girlfriend iced caramel lattes with sweet vanilla cold foam on top. Very
Well, for those
delicious,
of you that
guys.
do not know, Joey is a certified munch because he has tried the ice spice drink, so he is now a
And
certified munch.
and I'm a big fan of the Ice Spice and Ben Affleck Dunkin' like commercials. Like they're just some of the best marketing I've seen in a while. Shout out to them too. Batman and a munch. I mean, who would have thought Batman is a certified munch? um, it's there it is in stamps. But what's it called? Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of good stuff coming around the corner. Obviously, October is spooky season, so there's gonna be a lot of horror stuff coming out. A lot
Doesn't the
of
Saw movie come out this Friday?
Yeah, Saw movie is out this weekend, as well as Paw Patrol. So Saw Patrol is out this weekend. Another great
Saw
weekend
Patrol.
for movies. So bring your kids to either watch Paw Patrol or Saw or both, or just drop the kids off in Paw Patrol. Actually, don't drop the kids off. Like you definitely need to have an adult there. Um, but just go watch a movie or something. And then obviously later in the month we got one of my most anticipated movies, Five Nights at Freddy's. Very excited for that. I definitely am looking forward to that. And you have a couple other niche horror movies coming around, like that one about Thanksgiving, which I think is actually going to be pretty cool. Um, in the Halloween news, there is rumors that not Blumhouse, A24 wants to purchase the rights to Michael Myers. So we might be getting more Halloween movies in the future, and I trust A24 if
That
they
would be
did.
kind of interesting because the way Halloween ends
Yeah.
ended, they basically finally killed Michael Myers. So I don't know how they're going to reboot him, but you know what? Why
Hey,
not?
I
Why
mean,
not just kick a dead horse while it's down? I mean, like just or
fans gonna eat that crap up like they do
yeah.
with
But see, I just
Scream,
wish they
and
were a little bit more original. I mean, I don't want them,
there's no
dipping into this
originality
franchise.
anymore, man. It's all,
You
it's
know, it
all,
just
it's all, Michael Myers origins. Like
like I mean,
Ghostface
what are
origin.
we up to now? Like Halloween 20? Like I mean, like
Hey, I mean, if A24 actually has original ideas, but of course, if they buy the rights to an iconic horror character,
well, I
you
think if
have
I
to
had to
either
trust
rewrite the
anybody with the
story.
horror franchise, it would be A24 or Blumhouse. So I mean, they tend to put out really good work. I mean,
Maybe they'll just create a universe.
wasn't it A24 that just put out Talk to Me?
Yes,
And I mean, obviously that was a very popular movie, so I mean, it's probably one of the best horror movies that we got this year, to be honest. I haven't seen it, but I've heard a lot of great things about it. So if we have A24 taking over a character like Michael Myers, I mean, I think we're going to be, eating good. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see.
I definitely want to see, somehow in the future, like a multiverse of horror characters, just basically have them go all at it. But yeah, that's some more horror news I saw recently. But also some more news. I have heard that the writers' strike has officially ended after, I believe, 100 days. Apparently, the writers' union struck up a deal with companies. I don't think it was a great deal, but I do not think it was a bad deal. I know there are still some loopholes, obviously, in there for the companies. But I mean, hats off to them, the writers, that they, finally got something decent at least, and I hope it goes well for them. But the actors are still on strike, and they will still be on strike until further notice. Apparently, the reason why it takes so long with these companies, I mean, with these strikes, sorry, is because all production companies are basically fall under one thing when they want to make changes like this. And for example, a company like Netflix does not want to give, $45 million, while a company like, I don't freaking know, let's just say A24 will give a certain amount of money. So
mhm,
two companies may hold up 12 because they don't all agree. That's
mhm.
why it takes so long, and I expect the actors want to take probably as long as the writers, if not more.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Things probably will still be delayed, but maybe not as much as we would have thought, but we'll see how it goes in the coming seasons. Um, because we still got a few stuff coming out. Uh, and then that's pretty much it in terms of movie news. There's not much else to report from what I know.
There is
Really
one
more.
thing I want to say in regards to movie news. For those of you that do not know, the actor that played Dumbledore from the Harry Potter movies
Oh
passed
yes.
away today. He was 83. Apparently, he was fighting some pneumonia. So we lost another Harry Potter actor. I know we don't really talk about Harry Potter a lot on this podcast. I mean, we both are fans of Harry Potter. We're just more like casual fans. We're not like total like Potterheads or just, really big fans of it. I would like to start collecting some of their Legos because their Legos are pretty cool.
They have
Um,
good luck.
but I mean, we've both been to Universal. We've both been to the Wizarding World and everything. And we do like Harry Potter. We just don't really talk about it too much. But I did see that this morning. So I think that makes two actors currently because we lost the actor that played Severus Snape like 7 years ago, and then we just lost the actor that played Dumbledore today.
Well,
Um,
this was actually the second actor, technically, because the original actor, Dumbledore, died during filmmaking, and I forgot when in the timeline of the movies, and then he was the second guy to portray Dumbledore, which honestly, I feel like you wouldn't even low-key, like, notice,
hmm,
um, just because of how similar they are. But yeah, a lot of Harry Potter actors, unfortunately. And that was kind of crazy because, like, I just saw, like, I didn't, it was just, like, again, on TikTok today, and I was like, it's just very surprising when stuff like that happens because like you don't really think about it. Like you don't think of how old the actors are or like something. Like it's gonna be crazy one day where you see James Earl Jones, you know. It's like that's gonna crush me. Or even John Williams. Like John Williams is freaking old.
mhm.
You know, not
Yeah,
gonna
but
lie.
unfortunately, that's really the only bit of movie news that we could broadcast because there's not really anything else going on besides just the end of the writer strikes. Um, so yeah, but no, I mean that's pretty much it as in regard to current news and updates and how we're doing. So I think with that being said, we could start diving into the rest of the episode.
Actually, one thing before we dive in, I want to say I was watching a TikTok earlier, and it was about movie posters, and this guy basically broke down all the different forms of movie posters there are, and I'm curious to like our listeners out there, what your opinion is on the different types of movie posters. For example, like if there's a certain type that you enjoy, like we all know there's a teaser poster, we all know there's the floating heads poster, the theatrical poster, there are character posters, there are IMAX, Dolby, all those specialty posters. It's like do you guys have a favorite one? Do you think a poster makes a difference in terms of a movie? That's something I actually want to talk about in an episode at some point in the later future. But I just thought that was pretty interesting to mention. But yeah, like
I think
take what
to
you
kind of
want.
give like a simple answer, I think it matters more for the smaller projects and these smaller industries than it does for the bigger ones. Um, I mean, of course, people are going to enjoy like a official poster more than a teaser poster because they're not going to really put too much in a teaser poster. I mean, there are some great teaser posters out there, but I mean, obviously, your bread and butter is going to come from those official movie posters. However, whether or not it really makes a big deal, I don't think so. Unless you have like no access to technology and you just could not watch a trailer, if you're getting all your assumptions based on the poster, then that might be able to sway you whether or not you're going to see that movie. But I just think it's a fun visual. I think if they, add vibrant colors or just a lot of, stuff, basically, it's going to draw people's attention. But I think the trailers would matter more than the posters, at least in today's day and age. Back in the day before technology exploded, I mean, it could have been a totally different story. I mean, you could have saw like, one of the original posters for Star Wars, and you could have been like, oh my God, that looks so freaking cool. I got to go see that. But and again, I mean, the posters still do matter, but I think people are more often to judge a movie based on the trailer than the actual poster. So,
Well, you know what the funny thing is a couple of posters are definitely misleading, in like what they actually have on them. For example, the Infinity War poster had like Hulk on it, but like obviously Hulk was not in that movie. So it's kind of funny how like and again these posters may come out like at a certain time before, and sometimes these posters even come out before there's a trailer, like a teaser trailer. So it's kind of interesting when you see a poster for the first time and there's kind of like nothing on it, or like you didn't see anything on it. Like I remember seeing we got 2 character posters in for the menu before I even saw a trailer for it, and it was Anna Taylor-Joy and Ralph Fiennes, I think is his name. Just them two. And I was like, the hell is this movie about? So I think it's interesting, but obviously that's just something I wanted to mention a little bit before we got into our actual episode about Ahsoka, episode 7.
Yeah, cool. All right, yeah. So let's dive into the rest of the episode then. So as you guys already know, this is our episode 7 reaction and discussion for the Ahsoka series. If you have not watched the first, technically, what, 4 episodes? Yeah, technically, because I mean we combined the first episode was episodes 1 to 3, so there should be
Yeah.
4 episodes. Um, but this one was titled Episode 7, Dreams and Madness. I believe I just looked that up. So it was titled Dreams and Madness, which is a little bit of a callback to, previously in the series when Balin Skoll, referred to, Peridia and just, the pathway to Peridia, as dreams and madness. Obviously, the whole thing with folktales and stories, from the Jedi Temple and everything, just kind of coming back full circle as this episode is titled Dreams and Madness. Um, I think we could do a little bit of like a different approach when it comes to our breakdown. I think obviously we'll start with our personal opinions and like what we would rate the episode.
Hmm.
So for me personally, I think I would give this a solid 9 out of 10 suns. I thought overall it was a good video, good episode. And it definitely had some high points. There weren't too many low points, but overall I think it put the series into a good direction and possibly set up for a pretty good season finale. But yeah, I mean, honestly, it really just felt like a Rebels episode. Like it felt like I was just sitting down and watching a
Yeah,
live action episode of Rebels. So obviously, if
literally.
you're into that, I mean, you probably love this episode. If not, you probably had no idea what was going on. But you know what? I'm gonna be completely honest and transparent. I do not feel bad for the people that have no idea what's going on because if you did not watch the Clone Wars or Rebels, then you're just missing out. I mean, unfortunately, when you have this
Realistically,
show
yeah.
coming out and you know what characters are going to be in it, then expect to be confused. I mean, unfortunately, this is just not a show that you can just jump right into and have an idea of what's going on. Like, you're going to have that background knowledge. I mean, I understand everybody doesn't want to watch it because either it's too cartoonish or too childish, but you know what? Watch a YouTube video on it. Watch somebody just breaking down the show so you can just figure out what's going on. But yeah, no, I don't feel bad for anybody that's like, oh, who's that character? Who's that character? Oh, I'm super confused. It's like, oh, well, sucks. I mean, you should you should have watched the show. I mean, but yeah, I just wanted to get that off my chest because I love seeing those TikToks where like people are just making fun of the people that haven't seen like Rebels or Clone Wars, and they're like, oh, who's that character? Who's that character? And it's like, dude, just watch it. Like, I mean, I just don't understand. But yeah, little tangent over. Um, but yeah, like I said, I mean, I would give it a solid 9 out of 10 Suns. I thought it was a pretty good episode. I thought it kept the momentum going from episode 6. And like I said, I think it set up the stage for a good season finale. So,
I just want to say that's a great point that you brought up about people complaining about not knowing characters. Um, for anybody out there, if you're going into a show or movie or whatever it is, where you know that these characters are from other projects, most likely those other projects are going to have some sort of effect on this series and will bring characters or stories or whatever it is in from those other series. And especially a character like Ahsoka, who has been in several different projects, you should have expected, stuff to be in there. I know a lot of people will say, no, I will never watch Rebels, I will never watch Clone Wars, or because of like certain things. Honestly, watch them. Like, again, if you want to do the thing and watch a YouTube video on it, you could, but I don't like that because I feel like you don't really get your own experience out of it. Like I was literally rewatching Rebels a couple of hours ago and I was on the episodes with Maul and I won't give stuff away in terms of like the other characters, but basically where they reintroduce Maul. And I'm like, Jesus, like these are amazing episodes. And like I know a lot of people clown on Rebels for like various different reasons, but I'm like, God, I was like, sometimes you forget how good these episodes are. Um, and again, like a show like Mandalorian is different because that's a different character, a character we've never seen before, never heard of before. Obviously, there was other characters in it we know, but that, it's not the same like Ahsoka would be. So I definitely wholeheartedly agree with my brother, and I definitely think people out there that are complaining that they may or may not know who people are, that's kind of your own fault. If you wanna truly enjoy a show and like understand, you have to unfortunately watch what comes before it. For
Mm.
example, when I saw the Mukon Train movie for the first time for Demon Slayer, I didn't know who Rengoku was, and I didn't know why Crow kept on crying at the end of the film and talking to these other colorful people. And I found out, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. I should have did that before I watched the movie. Um, Still going to do that. But my personal rating of the episode, I'm going to be this guy and give it a 9.2 out of 10 suns, just because I liked it a little more than my brother. But I still think a 9 is a great score, but I like to be a little different here. So I'm going to give it a 9.2 out of 10 suns. Like my brother said, it's a great, almost like a live action Rebels episode. I loved Ezra in this episode, and I liked seeing Ezra and Sabine back together again. And I thought Ahsoka and Huyang were great as always. And I definitely enjoyed seeing more of Balin and Shin in this. Excuse me. As well as definitely more of Thrawn. So I thought it was just a great episode with a lot of different things that we could focus on. And that's why I'm going to give it a 9.2.
Okay, very nice. So I think we're a little bit higher than our last episode, because I think we gave
Mhm.
episode 6 like maybe what, like an 8,
Like, yeah,
uh,
and 8.
8.5, somewhere around there. So yeah, so I think, like I said, I think I want to structure this a little bit differently. Let's start with, just any of the negatives, just anything that we just didn't like or they wish they did better. Obviously, we gave it pretty high scores, but obviously it's not a perfect 10 out of 10. So there was probably some
Mm.
stuff that we just both would have, rather not seen, or maybe was done a little bit better. I only personally have two. I don't know how many you have. I only have two. I kind of told you, what these two were off camera, but the first one is the scene with Ahsoka and Huyang on the T6 Jedi shuttle when they're hiding in the whalebone or the Purgle graveyard, and she's trying to reach out to Sabine through the Force.
Mm.
Now, this is the only problem that I have with this scene. Obviously, the whole entire show, they've been trying to hint at Sabine possibly being force sensitive and kind of broadening the idea that really in the world of Star Wars, everybody is force sensitive, or everybody could use the force if they try hard enough. Obviously, there is a degree of talent that has to go along with using the force, but as told by George Lucas and as he, explained, how midichlorians work and just how the force works, the force resides in everybody. And if you're talented enough and, you train enough, you could have the potential to probably use the force. So they really just brought this idea kind of front and center, and they've been using this as their driving aspect when it comes to Sabine Wren and what they're trying to do with her characters. I think we could all agree that they are trying to make her force sensitive. They are trying to make her a possible Jedi. But so this, kind of gets to my point that I have. Now, the only thing that I think personally ruins the scene, and I mean, again, I know I talked to you about this off camera, but the only thing that I think ruins the scene personally is the line of dialogue that Hu Yang says before Ahsoka tries to reach out through the Force. Now, if Hu Yang wouldn't have said anything, and the scene would have played out where she closed her eyes and you heard the music and she tried to reach out through the Force, and then Sabine heard her and responded back, the fact that, again, if he did not say anything, that would have been more natural. It would have been more fluid. It would have made more sense. I wouldn't have had a problem with it then, because then it's like, you know what? They're not really forcing it. It's coming naturally. Maybe they just have that good of a connection. Maybe they just have that good of an emotional connection where she's able to reach out to Sabine through the Force. We know that Force users, whether they're Jedi or Jedi or Sith, have the ability to read people's minds and read their thoughts and emotions. I mean, we've seen that all throughout the Clone Wars, all throughout the movies, Rebels, etc., etc. But it's a little taboo for them to kind of control people's minds or read their minds, so they don't do it. But we know that any Force user could just reach out to anybody in the galaxy if they so choose. But again, it's taboo, so they don't do it. If that scene would have just played out the way I described it without Hu Yang saying a word, I would have liked it. Perfectly fine. You know what? It doesn't really focus on the fact that she might be force sensitive. Maybe you could just create the argument that, you know what, she has a good emotional relationship with Sabine. They bonded over the last few years. They were master and apprentice at one point. They are master and apprentice again. I could see how she would be able to reach out to Sabine. Um, but I think just like every great project, sometimes they tend to shoot themselves in the own foot. And I think by adding that extra piece of dialogue where he's like, "Oh, do you really think your connection is that strong?" It's more like, now Ahsoka's like, "Oh yeah, watch me." And she kind of had to prove a point that, "Oh, hey, our connection is as strong as you might not think it is." And
Mm.
I just feel like that one line there just kind of made it, it kind of came across a little bit different. I feel like they were trying to highlight the fact that, oh, she could possibly be force sensitive. It was almost like Hu Yang was like speaking for the audience and was like, "Oh, do you guys even have that force connection?" And then Ahsoka was like, "Oh yeah, well watch this." And then she proceeds to connect to Sabine through the force. And obviously that's why I have a more negative opinion about that because again, we haven't seen Sabine use the Force once. She's tried to connect to the Force to move a simple cup to try to open a cell door. She cannot do it. As of now, she has no Force sensitivity. There is nothing about her that is special. She's simply just a Mandalorian who is a master
There's
of arms and a
nothing.
master of weapons. I mean, it's kind of harsh to say it like that, but that's pretty much what I mean by that. She's a Mandalorian. I mean, she's
Yeah,
skillful with weapons and all different types of fighting styles. But unfortunately, there's nothing special about her. I mean, she doesn't have any force ability. She's not force sensitive. Um, so by Ahsoka just being able to kind of reach out with Sabine, and Sabine's like, "Oh my God, I hear you." Oh my, and then she's able to respond back. It's like I don't know. It's like that's a little bit of a stretch. Whether or not they wanted us to really focus on that, I don't know. But obviously, being the Star Wars fan that I am, I focused on it and I was like, I don't really like that. Um, but I mean, I wouldn't have minded honestly if she just reached out, and said Sabine, but Sabine didn't answer. You know what? Like maybe Ahsoka closed her eyes and she got like a mental vision of like, okay, Ezra and Sabine are on this side of the planet. I could feel them. That's where they are, and then they just went straight towards her. And I feel like that would have been a little bit better, the way the scene played out. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, so I mean, that was, one of the first things I had a problem with this episode. I don't know if you want to comment or anything on it before I go on to the
yeah.
next
I
one.
actually wanted to say, do you like low key? It's kind of. I actually just thought about it when you were talking about it. Do you think that one of the reasons Sabine actually like heard Ahsoka and was like able to answer her was because she was with Ezra? Like, not
No.
saying Ezra did any of that, but a part of me, hold on, a part of me thinks that her mind is more at ease in a sense because she finally found Ezra. That maybe she was able to focus a little more, um, just to even hear Ahsoka. But I don't know. It's kind of a stretch, because like again, like you, I don't really like I'm, iffy about it because like as harsh as it sounds, I don't want Sabine to be force sensitive.
Well, I mean,
Like
before you continue, let's just clear the air, right? It's a known fact that Sabine trying to be force sensitive or become a Jedi, we know that this is a total move by Disney. This is the
uh,
total Kathleen Kennedy, this is a total Disney move. They just want their strong, independent female characters, and they just want Sabine to be force sensitive. Because you know what? What's one more female character that's force sensitive? I mean, it's not like you have Ahsoka and you have Hera, and one of your, main antagonists is Shin. You have the Night Sisters. But you know what? Let's make Sabine force sensitive because it's not like we just spent a whole show over multiple seasons building her character, creating her personality, and just who she is. But you know what? That's not good enough. So let's add a little bit of force sensitivity or her being a Jedi into the mix. And I mean, again, whether you see it or not, I see it as a clear Disney move. Whether this is something Filoni had to kind of argue, and he was like, you know what? Let me have full control of my show, and I'll let you do whatever you want to Sabine. But if that was like some sort of stipulation that he had to kind of pay Disney, to have more of the control over his own show, I don't know. But I mean, the way I see it, this is a total move by Disney. This is just another thing that they're doing unnecessarily because they just think they have to. Um, so if you sat down, you asked Dave Filoni, if this is the direction he wanted Sabine to go in, I would like to think that he's probably going to say no. I again, just the way her character was developed in Rebels, I really don't see her just all of a sudden being force sensitive. So I really don't think that's the storyline he would have chose for her. That's why I think this is more of a move by Disney and Kathleen Kennedy, because again, they love their female characters. So I think, they wanted to kind of pick and choose, and this is one of the repercussions, that he had to kind of make, in order to kind of like appease Disney. But I mean, that's just kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah, it's hard. Like we were having a conversation about this earlier, and like a part of me really thinks whatever sort of story in the sense of force abilityness that they have with Sabine, I feel like it's going nowhere just because it is episode 7. There's one more episode. What the hell are they going to do with her in episode 8? Like, I feel like there's really no reason to have her be force sensitive. Again, like, we could say, like, there was those parts with Hera, and there's, obviously with Sabine and everything. And, Disney does like to give, certain characters certain things. And I love Sabine, the way she is, and I love Hera the way she is. Force sensitivity doesn't need to be a thing that needs to be in every character in a Star Wars project, because your main character in this show is Ahsoka, and she's probably I'm gonna say at this point the most badass female character that you have in Star Wars. Or at least in my opinion, definitely one of the most badass. And there's a lot of other badass females in this show. Whether they have to be force sensitive or not, I don't think it makes a difference. Again, you have another badass Mandalorian character, you have a badass pilot character and mom in Hera. I mean, you're capturing all the audiences around here. And I think again, Disney they want certain things, and they're always going to be like that. And no matter how hard I think Filoni or somebody else will try, they just unfortunately cannot get Disney out of their pocket. So that's kind of why we're seeing a little bit more of this push. But it seems like it's definitely, if it was a thing, it's had pushback from Filoni. Obviously, he knows his characters, and I don't see Sabine like I don't see her using the Force, and I really don't want her to. Like honestly, every time they show something where she tries to use the Force, I always say I hope it doesn't happen, because I just don't want that. I want Sabine to be Sabine again and be who we saw. Because again, her story is her story. I don't see her going into any other story. Oh, just dropped my thing. I don't see her going into any story um, regarding a Jedi path. I don't necessarily like that. But that definitely was one of the things I was probably going to criticize about the episode as well. Like, if Ahsoka wanted to reach out and like, Sabine heard her but couldn't answer, whatever. Even though she answered, I guess whatever. Like, I wasn't even honestly thinking about what Hewing said until you said it. Um, so I mean, I just try to like get it out of my mind, like, because I don't I hope it don't go nowhere. But we'll see. And then what's it called? I don't know if you want to get into your other before I get into my other, because I think we had the same other one too as well, because I really only had two.
Yeah, sure. So, my other problem that I had, at least with this episode, or something that I wish that they did differently, was, towards later in the episode, probably like around like the last 20 minutes, I believe. And basically, it's the scene where Ezra and Sabine are traveling with the, community of, these alien hermit crabs, pretty much. And, they are getting attacked by Shin and, the marauders that have been, following them, since episode 6. And basically, they're about to fight, the battle's about to commence, and Sabine wants to give Ezra his lightsaber. All right, you're like, all right, this is classic Rebel. She's gonna go dual blasters, he's gonna go lightsaber, and then he pulls a Luke Skywalker from the sequel trilogy, and he's like, nope, I don't want it. And he's like, it's yours now. He's like, I gave it to you for a reason. It's yours now. I don't want it back. He's like, the Force is my ally. And I do have to admit, him being able to use the force, some sort of like martial arts, taekwondo with the force, was really cool. Seeing him kind of take on the marauders, hand to hand combat, using the force to push them back, to kick them. Even when he takes on Shin and he's able to stop the lightsaber with the force, just like we seen in the Rise of Skywalker when it came to the fight between Rey and Kylo on the remains of the Death Star. I think just the sound it makes, just the way it looks, it's just so cool. It's like that just shows you that in these years that he's been in exile, on Peridia, he probably has learned to definitely communicate and strengthen his connection to the Force. I mean, we know when he constructed his own lightsaber, he ended up having a green crystal. And obviously, having a green crystal means that you're more connected to the Force. You tend to use the Force, and you're more well known for the Force rather than your lightsaber combat. Um, and I mean, this has been shown all throughout Star Wars Rebels when he's able to communicate with all different types of creatures, especially when he's on Lothal and he connects with the Lothal wolves. and there was another creature that he connects with that I wanted to highlight. Oh, and the Purgles. He was able to connect with the Purgles as well. Probably two of those creatures are the most well-known Force-sensitive creatures, in Star Wars. So we definitely know that Ezra has a higher ability for the Force than other Jedi. And we see that if this was Shin and Ezra in a one-on-one fight, I mean, he probably could have easily took her without the lightsaber.
Yeah.
However, again, it's a missed opportunity because everybody and their mom probably wanted to see Ezra pick up that lightsaber and like just go back to like classic Rebels where like he's running down that hallway, doing flips, mind
Hmm.
controlling stormtroopers, and just like going ham. I mean, like that was the classic Ezra we know and love. And again, this kind of goes full circle back to the argument that I had about Kathleen Kennedy and Disney, where again, we might possibly be seeing something similar to Luke that they might be doing with Ezra. I mean, Rey, a new prominent female character, goes to return the lightsaber to Luke, a prominent male character in the original trilogy, and he doesn't want it. He doesn't want to go back. Say what you want about the sequels, obviously. I mean, I think most of us could agree that the sequels pretty much ruined Luke Skywalker's character. So, I mean, that's just a whole list of disasters for another day, another topic. However, that scene just heavily reminded me of the sequels, and I was like, you know what? I mean, they just spent all this time trying to find Ezra, and you're going to tell me that he doesn't even want his lightsaber back? I was like, that scene I saw, and I was like, they're pulling a sequel here. I was like, they're doing the same thing that they did to Luke. I mean, like, so that aggravated me. Even though that the follow up scene to that was really good. Like I said, the combat was really good with Ezra and everything, and the rest of the scene played out very well. But again, this circles back to everything with Kathleen Kennedy and Disney and what they're doing with these female characters. And honestly, I don't want to because I really want to enjoy her character, but this show is actually making me not like Sabine's character as much as I did during Rebels. And I don't think it's the character's own fault. I just think it's the writing and I mean, what they're doing to her character and the direction that they're going in with her character just makes me not really love the character as much as I did. I know everybody's favorite character might have not been Sabine from Rebels, but I really enjoyed her character. I thought her character was pretty good. She was fun to watch. I thought she had good development throughout the whole series. However, I don't know what they did to Sabine, but they just nerfed the hell out of her. I mean, like she sucks in every single fight that she's a part of. She's constantly getting her ass kicked. Like whether it's with the lightsaber or with the blasters, like she cannot hold her own for shit. And it's just like you just watch her and you're just like, who is this character? Where's her personality? Where's her fight? Where's her flashy style? It's like you're just not seeing any of that. I mean, you see her helmet once and it gets knocked off by a fucking tree. I mean, like, come on. I mean, like, the Mandalorian himself never took off his helmet and he suffered more damage and more fights than she did, and his helmet perfectly stayed on. So, again, just both of these problems that I have with the episode just kind of tend to stem from Sabine and then just what they're doing to her character. Um, and overall, I mean, I'm sure we'll probably do an episode like maybe just after the series is finished and kind of just go into like, overall how we enjoyed the series, what we would rate it, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But this is definitely an issue that I'm going to highlight because, again, I mean, I think this series is really good. I mean, I think if it ends on a high note, I think it's a possible A tier show for Star Wars. However, the one thing or the one flaw that I do have with this show is what they did with Sabine Wren, and I just do not appreciate what they did to her character. I think they casted her perfectly. I think the actress who plays her conveys her perfectly. However, I think the writing is terrible. I think the direction that she's going in is terrible, and they basically took this character that we know and love, and I don't know whether you could agree with me or not, but if you see her character in Rebels as you've been rewatching it, and you see her character in Ahsoka now, you could probably tell that there's definitely a difference. And whether or not you want to blame that on her missing Ezra, her and Ahsoka's relationship not planning out, I just feel like that's lazy writing, and I just feel like she's overcome more adversity than that in the past. And, again, like I said, I just don't like what they're doing with her characters. I mean, I think kind of tying it back into my second problem with this episode, just the fact that this is her lightsaber now, where Ezra doesn't want it. Just kind of worries me about what direction they're going to put Ezra's character in, what direction her character is going to further into, and just how the season finale is going to play out, how the movie's going to play out. So yeah.
I agree with some of the things you said, but I kind of disagree with a large majority of it. The main point being is the whole Ezra lightsaber thing. I really like, yeah, I've seen the memes of like, him pulling a Luke or anything, but I don't get those vibes off of that initial interaction in terms of her actually trying to give the lightsaber over, to have combat. A part of me, thinks it's been 7 years. He's obviously connected with the Force a lot more. So in his mind, maybe he don't need the lightsaber or he wants it right away. It's not like he's taking it and throwing it away like Luke did. He doesn't really have that serious monotone angry tone towards it. He's kind of like, no, like you keep it, you hold on to it for now. I don't think in the end, like, again, like, even though he always tells Sabine like it's hers, or at least not always, because like they literally just saw each other again, she's still like not taking it as hers, if you know what I mean. um and I wouldn't worry about his character not ever getting his lightsaber. I think he's gonna get his lightsaber back, whether he builds a new one or he gets that one and modifies it again or something. But I think we're gonna see a new side of Ezra in terms of definitely his age, because he has matured a lot, and his connectivity with the Force, because obviously he's grown in power. Excuse me, in terms of the Force, and I don't think we're gonna see him with a lightsaber until he really has to take on a formidable opponent. Not saying like Shin's not, but compared to Ezra, she's not really. He's definitely a lot more powerful, even without wielding a lightsaber. So I wasn't too worried about Ezra. Sabine, I do agree with a lot of the things. In terms of like, it seems like she isn't, again, like in Rebels, even though Rebels is like more of a kid friendly show, you still saw Sabine kick a lot of ass. Her thing was explosions and this and that. And, I'm very surprised we haven't really seen her do any explosion stuff. I mean, I guess there really hasn't warranted for it because, there maybe hasn't been that opportunity. But again, like in battle, she just gets hit a lot. And it is concerning because regardless of the Force stuff or just her character is a Mandalorian, and we saw that she did do battle very well in Rebels. So I do wonder why they're doing that.
Like
Um,
I just feel like, again, like you said in Rebels, like she does very well in battle, but it's almost like they're using like the Beskar armor as like a safety net because it's like I never seen her get so hit, like hit so many times in her armor. I mean, we all get it. We know Beskar armor blocks blaster fire and it doesn't, it blocks lightsaber attacks. But it's like that's the only excuse that they're using for her. It's like again, even in Rebels, we saw her maybe get hit a couple of times, but I mean, I think there's like one episode I could think of where she gets blaster bolts deflected back to her, and it hits her armor. But other
mhm.
than that, you never really see her get hit with anything. And then like now, every single fight she's in, it's like, oh, shot here, shot here, shot here, and like you just hear the ding of the armor because that's the only thing that's protecting her. I mean, hypothetically, if she never put her armor back on, she would have been dead by now
Mm.
because like again, like the only thing that's keeping her alive is her freaking Mandalorian armor, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard with Sabine because like Sabine isn't my favorite character from Rebels, but she definitely is an enjoyable character. And if you watch Rebels, you can see the difference of her in the show. So I do wonder where her character is going and obviously like why that is happening. Um, but with the lightsaber thing with Ezra, I'm not too concerned with it. Again, like I am very curious to see what happens in the next episode, whether he faces like, I don't know, somebody like Balin or Thrawn, and if he actually uses a lightsaber or not, um, or if we actually get explanation, maybe somehow he's having a conversation with Sabine about why he didn't take the lightsaber. Um, because again, I really feel like it'd be very weird for them to introduce a character like Ezra who is like, maybe not known by many, but he can have a lot more story left to him because of his introduction in Rebels and just the type of character he is. And I
Especially when
would
like
hope,
he's one of the first characters to build like an incredibly unique lightsaber where it was like
yeah.
half a blaster and then half a lightsaber. It's like so his character has been surrounded by him with a lightsaber. So the fact that they kind of just like he doesn't accept it right away, it's like I can understand the whole thing about maturing, connecting with the force and being like, "Oh, I don't need it anymore." But it's like, I don't know. I mean, I just, The only reason why I worry about it is, I don't think that Ezra is going to go in the same direction as Luke. I don't think it's going to turn out the same way, but because Star Wars is owned by Disney now, anything could happen. I mean, we saw how they did the sequel trilogy, so really,
Well, all we
unfortunately,
can
even
hope.
though Filoni is in charge, you never know what's going to happen. So that's why I have a little bit of skepticism, but I would like to be more positive and just hope that, his character progresses in the right direction.
Yeah, all we can hope is that Disney learned from the sequels, and we're definitely gonna have an episode on it because it's a shame because the sequels had a lot of good characters that could have went in various directions that could have made that trilogy a good trilogy. Not the best, not one of the best. It would have been a good trilogy if they genuinely would have taken time with their characters and put it in a certain direction. Again, like I have almost no problem with the main characters that they show initially when they introduced them, but you could definitely tell how their story goes and what they're trying to work for, and it just didn't work in how they attempted it, unfortunately. And I would assume they would have learned a lesson, especially with Star Wars is getting. I mean, Star Wars is always going to be popular, but honestly, I don't even care about Marvel right now, and I'm not excited for really any Marvel projects in the future. I mean, I like Loki, but like I'm more concerned about Star Wars right now. And if they play their cards right, Star Wars will get back on the map very heavily if they continue to do Star Wars projects just based off of this one show alone, because it will probably lead into that Filoni movie, or maybe give us an idea. Um, so I mean, yeah, on that topic of Ezra and Sabine, I am a little disappointed that Sabine's character maybe isn't a lot like her Rebels character. Not sure why that is. I hope we see it, in episode 8. It's the last possible episode to really get, that um, type of character back, I guess. And we just got Ezra reintroduced, so I am very curious to see where his character goes. More now that it's been a couple of years and he's been in a different galaxy. Maybe he's learned different things. Who knows? Um, and then the only other problem I kind of had with it was um, between Balin and Shin. There is a scene where basically Balin and Shin are kind of over on a hilltop overlooking um, Ezra and Sabine fighting the Marauders, and Shin's basically talking to him, saying like like to go, and this Balin's just like, no, this is like where we're gonna part ways. I have my own journey. This is another path that you have to take. And a part of me didn't mind it because I'm like, okay, he's doing a master thing, and telling that he has a path, his apprentice has a path. She needs to go figure out hers. He has something that's calling to him, and I'm very interested to see where Balin's character goes. But it was just very random. That he's kind of like, or this scene was just like, yeah, now they're separated. Like it was very strange to me that it just happened like that. But again, I'm curious to see how Shin does on her own in the sense of her actual character as well as Balin. We've seen more alone of Balin obviously than Shin. But I think it's gonna go in an interesting direction for sure. It just kind of caught me off guard, and I was very surprised that it like just happened. But I am a big fan of Balin's character, so I trust in what he says, and I definitely am looking forward to the next episode with them.
Yeah, I mean,
That was pretty much it.
I was actually a little surprised on like kind of like how their story ended. I mean, again, this might not be the end of their story, but I was a little surprised, mainly because we have no idea who these two characters are. We have no idea how they
Exactly.
met. We have no idea how their master apprentice relationship began. So the fact that they just kind of take this duo that we've been following for the whole show, and then he's like, "All right, deuces." He's like, "I got to go my own way and figure out what this thing is calling me for." Um, I don't know. I mean, I feel like if maybe we learned more about their characters, we got a more developed storyline between the two of them, it would have made a little bit more sense. But the fact that we literally have no idea who Shin is, the only thing that we know about Balin is that he was around during the Clone Wars and he was a general. Those are the only two things. And obviously, he survived Order 66. That's it. So it's not really a lot of information to go on. So the fact that he would just be like, "Oh, well, this is actually where we part ways. Deuces, bye, have fun. I'll leave you with one last lesson. Don't be impatient. Okay, bye," and then and then just left. Um, I don't know. It leaves a lot of questions, and I mean, they could be. all answered in the next episode, but that definitely was something that I caught too, and I was like, why are they splitting up? I was like, they've been together the whole entire show, and you're literally going to split them up in the second to last episode of the show. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going to go on with them. Like we talked about this before, but I really hope whatever happens with Balin's story, that his story comes to an end, and in a good way, because obviously the actor passed away in real life, so hopefully his story is fully completed, by the time all this is over. And then as for Shin, she's still a very mysterious character. We don't really know anything about her. So, we'll see what happens to her, in the season finale, and then, later on in the movie if she's around for that long. But yeah, I mean, that was a good catch, because that was something that I was a little confused about. I mean, I don't think it was something negative, but I just was left with a lot of questions.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, it was a good thing that you brought that up, because that is definitely something that is to wonder about. Um, Go
I
ahead.
think this is where the episode 8 like curse kind of comes in. I don't want to call it a curse, but I don't know what other word to use. The fact that this, you know, um, show was only 8 episodes, it kind of leaves for I don't know. Like you have to interpret a lot of things because you don't know what's going to happen in the next episode. And like the episodes, even if they say they're like 50 minutes long, they're only about 45 minutes. So a 45-minute episode is only about 40 minutes. And, 40 minutes seems like a lot, but the story goes pretty fast. So for a show to be only 8 episodes long, again, I think they've been doing well in terms of timing and story and all that stuff. But again, I unless there are plans for certain characters in the future, I really do want to know what Balin and Shin's story is, and I don't think we're gonna get the full extent of both of them in the next episode. I think
Yeah.
more Balin. Shin, I don't really know what's going on with her character right now. It is fun to interpret, but also now if we get left on a cliffhanger for 2.5 years until that Dave Filoni movie comes out, I might be a little annoyed. So I think that's kind of where, again, I think if like this series was maybe 2 episodes more, it would be like perfect.
Well, I mean,
Uh,
I think it's all going to stem down to episode 3. I mean, obviously episode 3 was like the filler episode. Um, so I think if they gave us literally anything else besides episode 3, they would have had more time to kind of flush out more of a story.
mm,
I mean, we knew it was going to kind of follow that curse where like episode 3 was going to be the filler episode, but for a show that's only 8 episodes long, you really shouldn't have any full filler episodes, to be honest. They could have
yeah,
easily spent that episode giving us more of a backstory about Ahsoka and Sabine's relationship, or even Balin and Shin's relationship. I mean, that's kind of how I thought the episode was going to go, to be honest. I thought it was going to kind of flash back and forth between Ahsoka and Sabine and Balin and Shin, but I mean, obviously, we just got an episode of them flying in space and just doing space battles and stuff like that. Again, it was an enjoyable episode, but it was just a little wasted potential. So we'll see if that episode basically, comes to bite them in the butt. And like I said, I mean, all this will be basically decided next week. So, but yeah, I mean, those are pretty much all the negatives. I mean, obviously not too many. I mean, only three things, out of a whole 45-minute episode. So, that's not too bad. So, we could kind of just close out the rest of this episode by just going into the positives and what we liked about the episode, pretty much.
yeah,
Um, so one of the things that I really enjoyed right off the bat was the opening scene. At first I got a little worried. I saw the thumbnail for the episode and I was like, oh great. I was like, is this another filler episode? Like, I mean, why are we going back to the New Republic? Why is this even
yeah.
necessary?
Who
Um,
cares?
yeah, exactly. Who cares?
We're the new
Um,
Republic.
However, when that scene actually happened, I mean, first of all, if it was only like 5 or 6 minutes, so it didn't really take away
Yeah, it
from
was
the
literally
rest of
the
the
first
episode.
one.
And if anything, it was actually sort of essential. I mean, maybe not essential is a strong word. It was definitely important.
Hmm.
Because I just like how they show the New Republic, and they just show how corrupt and weak the New Republic is, and why it's so easy for the Imperial remnants to survive. How Grand Admiral Thrawn could possibly return to this galaxy. How the rise of the First Order was so easy. Just to show how fragile and weak and corrupt this new government is. So even though some people might not love the politics of Star Wars, I thought it was interesting just to see how, like, you know you have all these rebel leaders, fight throughout the age of rebellion and fight against the Galactic Empire. Okay.
Oh my goodness! Oh Jesus! You can keep talking.
Okay. Anyway, so while he figures that out, but you see all these leaders of the Age of Rebellion, fighting against the Galactic Empire, and now you see that they're getting persecuted by this new Republic. I mean, this goes back to, I think it was episode 3, episode 4, where you have that first council meeting between Hera and a couple of the senators and Mon Mothma. And basically, they just think that whatever she's after is just a load of baloney, and superstitious, and it doesn't really matter or anything. And again, we just see how easily they're just willing to brush off like any of these problems and not actually confront like a scary reality in a way. And by them opening up in like the first 5 or 6 minutes and showing this court martialing case, between I guess this new republic council versus Harrison Dula, again, just goes to show like how corrupt and just nonchalant this government is, and especially that one senator that is the father of one of the characters from Star Wars Resistance. He is just a total asshole. I mean, like, I don't know what is up with this guy, but like this guy is just like a total like jerk off, to be honest. um and again, I mean, are you okay? You're kind of distracting me here. Like, what are you looking for?
Sorry, I have a jug of water in my room and it just started leaking because I started hearing noises and it leaked all over my dresser. So I needed to clean it up.
Oh, okay.
Excuse me, I lost my pen and I like that.
Are you okay? I'll wait until you're firmly set so I could recollect my thoughts here.
Oh, there it is.
Oh God, this is what happens on Two Sons podcast.
Hey, listen, normally, again, like you said, this would be edited out, but it's not because this is raw footage. All right, go back into it. I'm good.
Okay, so like I was saying, so again, basically what I'm getting at here is that, we see that this scene shows, the corruption and the weakness of the New Republic. It shows how, we have these famous rebellion leaders that, fought against the evil Galactic Empire, and now they're being persecuted by the same government that they put in charge, basically. And then again, that one senator is just a total dickhead, and he obviously has the thing against droids, as Chopper was ready to like fly over the table and like fight this man, which was really funny. But however, besides this scene showing just the New Republic and the importance of just how it being so weak and corrupt, led to all these other things. It also gave a little cameo to C-3PO, played by Anthony Daniels once again, and then also gave a little shout out to Leia Organa. I mean, obviously Carrie Fisher has passed away in real life, so we did not see her in this episode, but we heard of her because obviously after Return of the Jedi, she goes back to being a senator for the New Republic. And then in Claudia Gray's book, Aftermath, people find out that Darth Vader was actually her father. And that's how she gets ousted from the New Republic. And then she creates the Resistance to kind of fight the First Order. So that's basically just a quick summary of what happens in that book, pretty much. But we see that these characters from, the original trilogy, Return of the Jedi, are obviously doing things outside of those movies. And we see that Leia has gone back to politics and just like her mother, is in the Senate, and she became a senator. And we see that, she was the one that like, sanctioned the mission for Hera and, Phoenix Squadron to go to CTOS and investigate, Morgan Elsbeth and, what they were doing there. And, overall, it was a nice, fun, great scene. It didn't last too long, so it didn't drag on. And even the way it ended, when Mon Mothma was like, well, just give it to me straight. Like, how worried should we be? And then Hera was like, well, you know what? We just gotta hope for the best and prepare for the worst. And I mean that's basically just a great way to summarize it up. Um, and I mean I think that was definitely one of the high points, or definitely a good way to start the episode out.
Yeah, I honestly thought it was a great introduction. I thought it was the perfect amount of time. Always gotta love a cameo from C-3PO, and just hearing Leia's name is always great, and it's always fun to see how characters like that are even kind of not pulling the strings but helping in the background. They don't even need to be seen to know they're helping. And you saw a little bit more of Chopper and Hera in the scene, which I love because I feel like we haven't seen much of Hera or Chopper lately, but obviously it makes sense because they're in the other galaxy far away. And it is interesting to see a little bit more on the political side of like this Star Wars show, because from what I'd assume, I haven't watched it and it is on my watch list. Andor, I know, kind of focused a little bit more on that side. And maybe that's something that actually kind of strengthened the show a little bit. So I like that they're showing that, yeah, your New Republic like has its problems, but you guys don't want to admit it. And this will span into why the First Order rise so easily, whether, what that had to do with or not. Um, so, I definitely did enjoy the opening as well. And I thought it was a great introduction to the rest of the episode.
Yeah, yeah, totally agreed. Another thing that I really enjoyed about the episode was the scene that basically takes place right after, where we rejoin Ahsoka and Hu Yang on their T6 Jedi shuttle, and we see her practicing a couple of lightsaber forms, and we
Mhm.
see another cameo come back, which I wasn't personally expecting in this episode, but we see a holo recording of Anakin Skywalker, obviously played by Hayden Christensen. He's in his Clone Wars general armor, so he's looking really cool. And to make a long story short, we know that Anakin created about 20 of these recordings for Ahsoka throughout the Clone Wars to help her like prepare for her training and give her basically training and advice when they couldn't be together physically. So we open up to her practicing a couple of the different lightsaber forms. Obviously, if you want to get real nerdy, I believe it was the fourth form of lightsaber combat that has to deal with usually dual blading a lightsaber because breaking it down, like it was a type of lightsaber form that Anakin used against Count Dooku in Attack of the Clones when he had the two lightsabers, but he was never able to master it. So he had Ahsoka kind of learn this form, and he modified it as a way to teach her. Because obviously we see from well, not the beginning of the Clone Wars, but as the seasons kind of progress, we see her start to don a second lightsaber. So she does have that, dual lightsaber combat style. So we see her practicing, and again, he's basically just talking about, preparing her for the Clone Wars, preparing her for battle droids, but then also not always battle droids. We actually get a couple of cameo name shout outs in the terms of General Grievous, Count Dooku, and Asajj Ventress. So for those of you that just do not know who those are, quick rundown. Count Dooku, he was once a Jedi, but around the time of the Phantom Menace, he turned and he became Darth Tyrannus, and he was kind of the Sith under Darth Sidious, basically for the whole entire prequel trilogy until Revenge of the Sith, where he is killed and defeated by Anakin Skywalker. But he makes plenty of appearances, all throughout the prequel trilogy and then also the Clone Wars TV show. Another character, well, all these characters make appearances in the Clone Wars, is General Grievous. Long story short, he comes from this alien species that I do not remember. He was a great warrior. However, he was badly injured. And actually, I think it was the Emperor or just some sort of dark side stuff that injured him. From what I understand, he was getting in a shuttle. The shuttle was rigged. The shuttle exploded, and obviously, he was all deformed and had to be put in those like kind of like cyborg robotic shell that we see in the Clone Wars and in live action. So he basically kind of becomes like a pseudo apprentice to Count Dooku. I mean, we know that Count Dooku trains him in lightsaber combat, but he does become the general and the leader of the Separatist army and forces during the Clone Wars. So very prominent character. We are constantly seeing him all throughout the Clone Wars, and we do see him meet his end in Revenge of the Sith, Episode 3, when he is defeated by Obi-Wan Kenobi on Utapau. So, that was another character that was mentioned. And then finally, we have Asajj Ventress, another character that we see in the Clone Wars. To make her long story short, she was kind of like a pseudo apprentice slash assassin to Count Dooku, kind of like a secret apprentice. I think Darth Sidious knew about her, but he just didn't really care because obviously he knew that Count Dooku was loyal to him. We do know that she comes from Dathomir. She was part of the Night Sister clan, but that she left that clan to obviously become Count Dooku's apprentice. We see her in a numerous amount of Clone Wars episodes. She eventually gets betrayed by Count Dooku, gets left for dead. She returns back to Dathomir. She gets reconverted back into a Night Sister. And then when General Grievous and the Separatists invade Dathomir and wipe out the Night Sister clan, she takes part in that battle to fight against them. She's one of the only surviving members. And then she kind of goes into hiding We see her later on in the Clone Wars when Ahsoka is going through her whole trial and investigation thing, because Anakin, thinks that she's responsible because they find her lightsabers. Obviously, she's not responsible because we find that out later in the episode. But we do see her make an appearance, and then we don't see her for the rest of the series. From what I understand, there is a book series out. I don't know if it's canon or if it's non-canon, but apparently it does cover her and Quinlan Voss, which was another Jedi that we saw in the Clone Wars. Eventually, they end up just falling in love, and then I believe she dies after the Clone Wars. So obviously, around this time, she is no longer living. So I think her story kind of ends in a book, so definitely off camera. I don't know what those book names are, but that's just the way I've been told. And yeah, so I mean, those were basically a summary of those three characters. So we basically kind of circle back to the understanding that not only is he teaching her how to combat droids, but also these other Force and lightsaber duelists that she might run into, during the Clone Wars. Um, and what I do enjoy about this hologram is that it's almost like he's there in present time. It's almost like it's not like a hologram recording, but like it's like just a message or transmission that she's kind of listening to. And then what I do really love is that after she finishes practicing, she has her back to him, and he's like, "Oh, I know you could do this, Ahsoka." And then she turns around and she bows to him, and he bows back, which kind of gives you that like, almost like it's in the present, like this is not a recording. Um, and then obviously the scene finishes up because Hu Yang enters and they start conversing and talking about something else. And this was another scene that I really enjoyed. Again, just expanding upon what we saw in episode 5, just furthering Anakin and Ahsoka's relationship. We obviously see that Ahsoka has a more positive relationship and viewpoint of Anakin. Because she is listening to his recordings, she's practicing his teachings and whatnot, similar to how we saw her in Star Wars Rebels when she was doing that aboard the Ghost. Um, so yeah, so we do see that the events of episode 5 have kind of transformed her into Ahsoka the White, and she has come full circle and accepted all terms on who Anakin Skywalker was from beginning to end. So we do see a different side of her. We see her more fluid. We see her more relaxed. And like I said, we see that deeper appreciation for Anakin. And of course, it's always nice to see Hayden Christensen come back, in just any fashion. So of course that was another plus to the episode, and both of these happened pretty early in the episode, so just again another great way just to begin the episode.
Yeah, what I really liked about this little scene too was the mention of Dooku, Grievous, and Asajj Ventress, and I was very surprised they even mentioned Ventress because she is really not a character known unless you've seen Clone Wars, and I really enjoy her character, and I'm glad they mentioned it in this little snippet, as well as Dooku and Grievous because they're both badass characters in my mind. And the whole training scene with Anakin, I really liked because one, of course, I love seeing Hayden Christensen again, and I always love seeing basically the duo of Ahsoka and Anakin. But it reminded me of a episode where Ahsoka is actually it's in Rebels, where Ahsoka is watching recordings of
Yeah, that
Anakin.
was the one that I was
Bas-
referring to.
yeah, basically the same ones. And Ezra comes in and it's like these recordings are amazing. I used them in my own lightsaber combat. And to me, that was basically a little callback. And it's just again, Ahsoka is watching these of her master, obviously because of the training as well. But I also think it gives us like, that's what she has left of her master. And she just, still always wants to hold on to that part. And you could still see that there's a respect there that she has for Anakin, regardless of, Darth Vader and all that story that has happened. Um, so I mean, I thought it was a neat little scene, and it was definitely great to throw in there at the beginning of the episode. Um, and I mean, there's really not much more to analyze from it besides those couple of things you already mentioned. It's just an enjoyable scene. And what I like about this show is they seem to include a lot of those little things that, like, whether it's the mention of General Grievous and Asajj Ventress and Count Dooku, it's like still you're hearing some of the most popular names in Star Wars in this little part, and it definitely makes a difference. Just hearing it is cool in my mind.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, no, pretty very well said. So another thing that to be honest, I really only have like two more things, at least that I could think of that I want to
Mhm.
point out that I really enjoyed. Another thing that I really enjoyed about this episode was how they continued to flush out Grand Admiral Thrawn's character. So I know obviously people were a little skeptical about, his live action appearance and just his character in the previous episode when he was introduced. Whether you didn't like the look of him or you just didn't get that same, Grand Admiral Thrawn feeling and vibe, from what you might know from Star Wars Rebels and especially, the Timothy Zahn trilogy. Um, However, I think in this episode we do see a more thought out and well rounded character when it comes to Thrawn. We see him definitely become that superior tactician that we saw in Rebels and in the books, especially when it comes to flushing out Ahsoka and finding out where she's in the Purgle graveyard. And basically, he's kind of just playing 4D chess with her the whole entire time. And then this is just a classic Thrawn move. I mean, we see him do this so many times in Rebels. We've seen him do it, so many times in the novel trilogy. So this was just kind of great to see Thrawn back in his element and just who he is and what he does. And again, it was really interesting to see like, how he was able to flush Ahsoka out of hiding and, you know, somehow he knew that Ahsoka was going to reach out to Sabine. So by her using the Force, he was able to have the Great Mothers find out where she was, in that type of magical aspect, which I mean is really cool. Um, and again, we see the whole 45 minutes, we see that this was all just a ploy by him to waste time for her. Because, time is the one thing that, she and the rest of the Ghost crew do not have. So by him, sending out stormtroopers, sending out Shin and Balin to confront them, this was just all a way for him to waste time and gather more time for himself. So again, we see him playing this 4D style chess where he's like, I'm not worried about defeating her. I don't care if I have to defeat her. I just have to make sure I have more time on my plate than she does. So I mean, again, it's great to see how his mind works. I mean, again, I am a huge fan of the book trilogy, so I loved his character in that. I loved his character in Rebels, and then especially when he gets the data from the inquisitorial database, which is also a cool little Easter egg because it shows that Maruk might have been working longer than we expected for the Night Sisters, when maybe he was possibly alive, and maybe he was an actual Inquisitor. I mean, I think the fact that that they have database from the Inquisitorial database means that he definitely was an Inquisitor at some point. So whether or not he was being controlled by the Night Sisters before he died or even after he died, I don't know. But that was just kind of like a cool little Easter egg to Maruk because obviously ever since he died, nobody's really heard or seen anything about him. Um, so that was a cool little tie-in to his character. But we see that he finds out that Ahsoka's master is General Anakin Skywalker, and you can see like both the shock and like surprise in his eyes when he reads that. He's like, "Oh my God, her master was the Anakin Skywalker." And again, this is a tie-in to, I mean, you obviously don't know, but this is a tie-in to the book trilogy because we see that in the second book of the new trilogy, that it focuses on two storylines. It focuses on when Thrawn met Anakin Skywalker during the Clone Wars, and then it follows the story when Thrawn and Darth Vader have to work together for a mission. So it's basically two sides of the same coin, pretty much. And that whole book focuses on like how he met Anakin Skywalker, what they did, and then like just kind of parallels to what they're doing now as both Grand Admiral Thrawn and Darth Vader versus just Thrawn and Anakin Skywalker. Um, so that was a nice little tie into the books. I definitely appreciate that because again, I mean, that's how he knows Anakin Skywalker. So it's nice that you have that tie into the new trilogy because obviously the book trilogy is canon and is connected to the Star Wars Rebels timeline and kind of like fills in some gaps or like behind the scenes of like what Thrawn is doing when he's not chasing the Ghost Crew. So it was definitely nice to see that nod to Timothy Zahn and the man who created Thrawn himself and just the books in general. So I did really appreciate that. And like I said, overall, this episode just made me really enjoy Thrawn's character a little bit more because, like I said, it flushed him out as a tactician. You saw a little bit more of the old Thrawn that we saw in Rebels and everything, and overall, it just made me like his character even more. So
Yeah, what I really enjoyed about that, kind of little snippet that we saw of Thrawn was is I feel like if you not even really look at Thrawn, if you just take in the scene that Thrawn's in, or really just pay attention, you can see how much different he is in terms of a villain, or just compared. Yeah, I want to say a villain compared to a lot of these other Star Wars villains that we've gotten. Compare him to Vader, compare him to Grievous, compare him to Dooku. He's just very calm. He's very relaxed. He is smart in the sense of he has like several plans in his set in his head of how these things can work out, and somehow he always knows which one is right and which one's going to lead to the other one, and he's always steps ahead. And I kind of love that aspect that he's always planning, like no matter what, if he loses or something, it's for a purpose. So
Mhm.
in the end, he really never loses. I mean, obviously you could argue with Ezra and the Purgles and stuff, but really in this sense, again, Ahsoka and Ezra and Sabine, achieve what they wanted to achieve, but Thrawn is also achieving what he's wanted to achieve, and most likely he's going to get his goal in the end. And I really love that about Thrawn, and I think that's something that people need to consider: is you don't need somebody as badass as Darth Vader, even though Thrawn's badass in his own right, each villain is, but just that tactician of him is just something that makes him the best. Almost like if you want to talk about Marvel and talk about Zemo in Civil War, he was very good at pulling the strings and understanding how they're going to work. And Thrawn is very similar in that sense, but way better in how he does it in pretty much every scene we see him in. And something else I also like is how they've been showing the Great Mothers a lot, and I'm very curious on what the deal is with Thrawn and the Great Mothers, like what exact deal they actually have, and how strong the Great Mothers can actually be with the Force. The fact that once Ahsoka used the Force, they were able to tap in and find her exact location. Like that's just crazy to me that they actually. Obviously, we know the Dathomir witches are very powerful, and the Great Mothers are, definitely, some of the most, if not the most powerful, that Dathomiri. Um, it is just very cool to see another force sensitive thing that is not a Jedi or a Sith in the Star Wars universe, and I really like that about that little snippet scene with Thrawn and them as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm gonna keep telling you every single week, but if you have not checked them out, I mean, just go check out the the Thrawn trilogy. I wish there was a way I could like share it with you. But hold on, if I could show it to you quickly on my phone, just so you see like what it looks like. Let me just go to the books.
Can you buy it on Amazon,
Well, you could buy them on
like an
Amazon if you.
audiobook?
I don't know if you could buy the audiobooks, but you could like it's on the books app. So like you see like where the books app is on your phone, like right there.
Yeah.
Like so if you go there, like see these are the three audiobooks that I have. I don't know if you can see it on my phone. But
Uh huh.
this is basically the Thrawn trilogy that I listen to. I mean, you can get these books in like hardcover or paperback form on Amazon, but I actually think that it's a good idea to listen to them first because the audiobooks are like amazing. I mean, they have
Oh, you have to buy
voice
them.
actors. Yeah, they have like I mean, there's like a sample that you could listen to just to see how it you feel, but they hired like professional voice actors and everything for the characters and just sound effects and everything. And it's almost like you're like watching a movie or like listening to a movie. So yeah, I do highly recommend. I mean, I think it'd be something you'd enjoy listening to, like, while you're just like at work or, whatever, or just driving in your car. Um, so I mean, I actually started reading to them when I came home to New York that one time because I mean it's a great thing to like buy and download and then just listen to on the plane because you're gonna be stuck on the plane for like 2-3 hours.
Yeah.
So yeah, so again check them out if you want to. They're really fun to listen to and it definitely goes more into detail about who Thrawn is and how his journey began in our galaxy and everything. And again, this trilogy does tie into Star Wars Rebels and there are mentions of the Ghost Crew and Ezra and Kanan and everything. So it does. I mean, the very last book basically ends with them going back to Lothal to confront, the Ghost Crew, basically. So it basically just ties right into the season finale of Rebels. So yeah, so it's really good. So highly recommend. Um, but yeah, no, I mean, I agree with everything you said. And then really the only other point that I wanted to make, at least, one of the things I wanted to highlight was simply just Sabine and Ezra's dialogue, as long with the different fights. I mean, we covered some of the fights earlier in the episode, but just the whole fight sequence between, Ezra and Sabine, and, the Marauders and Shin, and then obviously between Ahsoka and Balin. I mean, I thought those were very well done. I really do like the choreography and the fighting that they're doing in this show. I mean, I know lightsaber combat in other projects, the sequels, hasn't always been well done. I mean, except for one movie. I mean, otherwise it's just been pile of dog water.
Which movie was it well done? Like, cause I actually
Honestly, I think one of the more well done scenes for lightsaber combat in the sequels was The Last Jedi in the
that's
throne
what I
room.
was gonna say.
It's probably like the best well done lightsaber fight of that trilogy.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I did enjoy, Sabine and Ezra kind of reconnecting and her basically explaining everything that happened. So basically the Empire was defeated. Yep, the Battle of Endor. The Emperor is dead, so they say. I like how she said "so they say" because there are people out there that don't believe he's dead, which kind of again trickles onto the sequel trilogy, which I really, Poe Dameron
Like
says the worst is come true. Somehow Palpatine returns. Yeah,
all right,
somehow. I mean, I don't know.
this is not a dog on the sequel
Yeah, yeah.
episode.
All
This is,
right,
we
yeah.
could do that
Settle
in
down.
another
Settle,
episode.
settle, settle down. Settle down.
Yeah.
That's for
Well,
another
that or
episode.
somehow Palpatine returned. But yeah,
Yeah.
we get it. We
Yeah, but yeah, I did really enjoy those two aspects. I think the lightsaber combat has been really well done in this show, and I mean this episode just kind of proved it. And like I said, just having Ezra and Sabine kind of reconnect again like old times, definitely was a little nostalgic, and was nice to watch. So yeah, I mean those were really all the positives that I kind of had in a nutshell. I know I talked a lot about everything. I mean, I'm sure you have some positives to talk about, unless I basically just took everything that you were going to say and just said it for you.
I mean, what I was gonna say is, I agree with you in the sense of all. I think the action in this episode was some of the best action of this series, and again, Ahsoka has done so well in their fight choreography and their scenes with lightsabers. I think I've enjoyed pretty much every scene that it has involved the lightsaber. I really loved Balin and Ahsoka's little duel, mainly because I felt a lot of anger from both sides in that duel, especially on Balin's side. Because even when he was fighting Ahsoka initially, he was very calm, cool, collected. Not saying he wasn't in this one, but you could definitely tell he was a little bit more aggravated with Ahsoka. Whether he's annoyed with her from getting to what he wants to do, in the sense of maybe the next episode or whatever's calling to him. And I love seeing Ahsoka sabers in action. I don't know why, but I think her color clashes so well with like pretty much every other lightsaber color, and it's just so satisfying to see. Um, One thing I also wanted to highlight is I said in the last episode, but even in this, you saw a couple of different scenes between Huang and Ahsoka in a sense of like them helping each other in the battle, whether it's Huang, putting up dust from the thing, or just communication between two of them. I'm just really enjoying that, and I'll continue saying that. I really enjoyed a couple of, actually, all the scenes I've seen with Ezra so far I've enjoyed, but something that I really enjoyed was, I thought his dialogue in this was very good, especially with, we saw a little bit of Ezra come back, that we know and love from Rebels when Shin comes, and his mannerisms and just like, don't you want to take us as prisoners? Like, come on, like like something like that. I just think is like the Ezra that we want to see and love, where it gets any of my doubts away. I never really doubted the actor. I don't really know much about him, but I trust in, if Dave Filoni's behind this, that his casting is done good, and the Ghost crew has been perfect so far. Um, so that's something that I also really enjoyed. And honestly, even though like it may have seemed stupid in the sequels with the Kylo and Rey fight, with stopping the lightsaber, it still is a pretty cool thing. And I really enjoyed seeing this with Ezra, and especially something I really enjoy, as much as like it may sound rude to say, is like how like they kind of treat Shin like a bitch when it comes to fighting. Like I feel like they kind of all like everybody just dogs on her, and you could see that she gets very frustrated, and that's kind of what I like, because I want to see where her character goes. We don't necessarily see her be a Sith or a Jedi either. I mean, obviously we'd assume she leads more on the Sith side, but again, we don't know what her and Balin's story is, in the sense of especially how he trained her, since he doesn't really follow each side. How did he train Shin? So that is something I'm definitely looking forward to, and I pretty much knew how this was going to end in terms of Ahsoka coming in, and I still love that. I thought it was badass, and I love seeing Ahsoka, Sabine, and Ezra back together again. I really can't wait to see them again in the next episode. Um, but I mean, other than that, there's not really much to this episode. I enjoyed the little turtles again in this episode. I liked when they kind of stopped in like the little circle formation when they were fighting, and it kind of showed that like even though like Ezra is this powerful like Jedi and stuff, like him and Sabine can work together against these things, the Marauders. But the episode kind of went quick, and we pretty much covered everything that we would have wanted to talk about, and this was pretty much everything we could talk about. The only other thing is, Thrawn said that the transport was like almost 85-90% complete at that, and it showed like a bunch of those little circle things. And I really am thinking now that it's like what you said, where it's like maybe like dead Night Watch sisters that
Well, I
they're
mean,
bringing
it's
back
something
to the
I'm glad you
galaxy.
brought this up because I wanted to mention it, but I just didn't think of it. I think it's kind of safe uh to say that these stormtroopers are not actually dead or they're not
Yeah, I don't
corpses
think so.
because obviously, when they got shot by the blasters and then hit by the lightsabers, they didn't emit any green smoke. Now, whether that's just Disney or the show like not covering their ass and not doing the same thing they did to Maruk. Nobody knows, but I think it's highly likely that these stormtroopers are actually just still alive and they're just extremely loyal to Thrawn and they're just being pieced together by Night Sister magic and just gold shrapnel things. So yeah, so I think they're still alive, which would make sense because obviously their numbers have dwindled. So I mean, if this is the surviving few, I mean, again, that just makes sense. Um, so yeah, I do think that they are definitely alive. But again, I could be totally wrong, and they could be actually dead or just corpses. But I think it's pretty safe to say that if you just watch that whole battle sequence and none of them had green smoke come out of them, they're probably still alive, which I actually liked and I preferred because I wanted them to still be alive. I didn't want them to be corpses or zombies or whatever. So,
Something I also wanted to say is we have seen the troop transport uh, for, I think, literally the past couple of Star Wars shows, and we have not gotten a Lego set for it yet. Just freaking make it. I mean, you did it with the gunship, but because it was, originally that design is basically the Coruscant Guard, uh, like
well, I
police.
mean, they're gonna have to make a Lego scene with Ezra, so they're probably
If
gonna
they
come out
don't
with an
make
Ahsoka Lego where it's gonna be like one of those like battle sets where it's gonna be like maybe him and Sabine, and then like it's gonna have like that like maybe troop transport and maybe like 2 or 3 stormtroopers or something. I
if they
mean,
don't make like 3 more Lego sets based off of like the rest of the season, I will be very disappointed in Lego. Like I know they have a slate they have to do, but make the Chimera. That's your big set in terms of Star Wars. People are gonna freaking eat it up. Make a battle set with Ezra in it, and throw Sabine back in there, and have that transport, or I don't know, the turtle pods or something, just as the build and like a battle scene, like make a battle pack or something with those stormtroopers. These stormtroopers are so cool, and I really want to see them in Lego form. But that was just something I wanted to say because those ships are really cool, and we've seen them a lot. And I kind of hope that they eventually put them on a Lego form. But Lego, they'll just make another TIE fighter or another X-wing or Luke's land speeder for the 17th million time. Because who doesn't want who doesn't want that? But we won't get on that. But other than that, I mean, that's pretty much all we got to say about the episode. It was pretty much short and sweet in terms of the episode. Obviously there was a little more dialogue heavy, but no, nothing super important that we haven't already talked about.
well, I mean, I think we could end the episode by just kind of going into something small. And I mean, really, I'll just kind of leave this question to you since I did, a lot of the talking this episode. But what are you hoping to see, in the season finale? What do you expect to see for the final episode of the Ahsoka series?
So what I'm hoping to see is I want to see what's calling to Balin. I either
Mhm.
want to see a hint of that, or I want to find out more about Balin. With that being said, I want to see more of Shin in terms of her backstory, whether it's a flashback or not. And I have a very, very strong hunch that we are going to see Order 66 again in the next episode, because we're going to see some flashback with Balin during Order 66. I have a feeling. Don't know if I'm right. If I'm right, somebody owes me money. Um, but so I do want to see that. I am obviously kind of hoping to see Thrawn win and him to get out of that galaxy, and I'm curious on how that is going to happen, because obviously we know he gets back on the
Eye of
Eye of
Sauron.
Sauron. Obviously, because we saw that in the trailers, and we have not seen that yet. Again, unless it's cut, which I don't think it is. So we know he makes it on. Whether he just returns without his stormtroopers and the Chimera, or they all return, who knows? I hope to find out what's in those boxes or casket things for the Dathomiri. Um, I would like to see Ezra wield a lightsaber, but I am not super duper confident that we will see it unless it calls for it. And I am just hoping for more action, in the sense of definitely more fight sequences, maybe whether it's with Balin and Ahsoka again, or somebody fighting Thrawn. But honestly, I don't think it's going to be very action heavy the last episode, because I'm not really sure who would fight, unless somehow, like, I don't know, something else. But and then I want to see a little bit more of Thrawn, even though we've gotten a good amount of him. I want to see a little, a solid like 10 minutes or so of him. And I kind of want to see, like, if somehow in a galaxy, far, far away, the New Republic or Hera will find out that Thrawn is coming back. You know, like I don't really know how that would happen, but I kind of hope they know, so
Mhm.
it gets left on a cliffhanger where they're kind of like, oh shit, like we're in trouble, and that's probably the basis around the Dave Filoni movie or something, maybe. I don't know. I wonder if there's gonna be a post credit scene, but yeah, I mean that's mainly what I'm hoping for. Honestly, what I really want is more Balin and Shin's story. I want to see more of Ezra, obviously, and I kind of just want to get a clear cut answer on what the hell is going on with Sabine. That to get fixed, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, very well said. I mean, I agree. Definitely touched upon a lot of the points that I'm looking for. Um, Overall, like I said, my main goal is just to see Thrawn succeed, and I want him to, be on his way back to our galaxy, whether he arrives back to Cetos or it just shows him jumping in the hyperspace. I do want to see him succeed. Um, Obviously, I think everybody could assume that he is going to succeed because there'd be no movie if he didn't succeed. So,
Who would be the bad?
yeah, exactly. So there's a lot to see, what comes next. It's a shame that it was only 8 episodes, but you know what? I mean, like I said, depending on how this season finale ends, if it's pretty mediocre, it's going to be a B tier show for me. If it's a really good episode, it's going to be an A tier show. We don't know how long it is. We don't know who's directing it. We're crossing our fingers and hoping that Dave Filoni is directing this episode. And I would like to hopefully suspect that this episode's going to be at least 50 minutes or longer. But again, we don't know. We don't know the exact runtime, so we'll just have to kind of wait and see until the episode is posted. But that's basically going to sum up our Ahsoka episode 7 discussion for you guys today. I mean, again, we both enjoyed the episode. Just a lot of our points that we were able to talk about were pretty kind of straightforward and to the point. This was a good episode. It just didn't have a lot of depth to it. So I mean, it was pretty easy to kind of talk about. So hopefully you guys enjoyed coming out and listening to another one of our lovely Ahsoka discussions. Um, we have a couple of ideas for what we want to do for the final episode of Ahsoka. We are hoping to possibly do some sort of uh, episode where we sit down and we watch the episode together. I know there's a way you could share, your screen on Disney Plus. I know there's a way we could obviously do it the way we record now, but we're just afraid of possibly getting copyrighted. So we'll probably try it out. In the worst case scenario, if we go to upload it and if we get copyrighted, we'll just have to delete the video and then we'll just come back and have one of these typical discussions for our last episode, and we'll just have to do it that way. But we'll try both. We'll see what works. Fingers crossed. Because there have been people that have been live streaming on YouTube and they're watching the episode, so I don't know how they're getting away with it. But again, we'll have to wait and see. Maybe we could do some research on exactly what we have to do, not to get copyrighted, but we'll figure that out. But regardless, you guys will get an episode 8, season finale episode next week. So be on the lookout for that. Before we let you guys go tonight, you could find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, now known as X, at Two Sons Podcast. That's with an O, not a U, because we are two brothers. So please check us out on those platforms. We're usually posting updates and just random thoughts and questions about TV shows, movies, etc., etc. Especially my brother has been doing a lot of that on Twitter recently. Especially a very sequel heavy. He's asking a lot of interesting questions about the sequels. So go check that out. A lot of good discussion there. And then of course check out Instagram and Facebook for updates and notifications when we post the latest episodes and just anything else that my brother chooses to post there. You can also find us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Java's Lounge. It is currently Java's Lounge, but I'm thinking of just changing it back to Two Sons Podcast. I like the idea originally, but I feel like it's a little out of place. But I'm thinking about it. So, but for now, it is still Java's Lounge. So just like that, I'll post the episodes whenever they come out. So make sure you have your notifications turned on for that. And then obviously, you'll be able to see the visual version of our conversation on YouTube, and then obviously the audio version on Spotify or whatever podcast platform you listen to us on. But with that being said, before we wrap it up, I'm going to give it to my brother to say his final words of wisdom, and then we will bid you all a adieu.
Yes. Once again, guys, thank you for coming out and listening to another episode of Two Sons Podcast, where we went over Ahsoka episode 7, and we are very eager and awaiting the season finale of Ahsoka. And I'm sad to see it end because there will be no Star Wars for a little bit. But we will still continue on the Star Wars talk, just because I've been seeing a lot of things recently, been getting back into Lego, which kind of helps in terms of Star Wars. So still very excited for the future. And I'm very excited to see how this show ends because, again, if it has a great finale, I'm putting it as an A-tier show because it is very high right now because it's been a great show. And I think a lot of people have been pleasantly surprised because I think a lot of people were going in thinking it would be mid. And I don't like to use that word because projects have good parts to them. I mean, obviously, some projects just may not be good or may not be for some people, but the show has been very good so far. And I'm definitely looking forward to the last episode. But once again, yes, I've been trying to post more on X and or Twitter. I've been seeing a lot of things about the sequels, and the sequels are always interesting to talk about, just because of all the controversy and stuff that's around them. And I definitely plan on doing we definitely plan on doing future episodes about it. So check that out if you like that stuff. But I've been very Star Wars heavy right now, obviously. So definitely trying to grow the follower account on there. Thank you for new followers and everything on the other socials as well. But like my brother said, you could find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Two Sons Podcast. At a sons with an O, not a U, because we are two brothers. Excuse me. Once again, guys, thank you for coming out and listening to another episode. We look forward to the next month coming up. Expect a little bit more spooky content. We hope to get that done for you guys once I get a new room set up. I'm very excited to show you all my posters and stuff. I would love to make a little video about just my setup and what I have and some of the things I've collected over the years, especially even the stuff I'm buying now. So very excited for the future in the upcoming months. And please be safe, guys. Especially start to dress warm if you're in a place where it's getting a little colder now. Be on the lookout for colds and stuff because it's definitely been going around. Don't do anything stupid. Make sure you're drinking water and eating food if you're in school or work or just in general. It's very important. You want to keep your strength up. And good luck with everything you do, guys. And I will leave myself on. May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you all, guys.
Have a good one.